What else can we do?
I'm gonna switch back to unlisted for a second.
Live. Why not?
I think my restreaming is gonna work, right?
You want to join the call from your phone or something like that? What else can we join Zoom from your phone?
I don't know. I'm just realizing that
and then just turn off
I'm getting the audio two times at minimum.
Why not? I was saying, you want to just join the call from your phone instead? Like use your phone camera and everything like that. I don't know, because then it would eliminate a variable. I should have it. Jeez, where am I? So much stuff to keep track of right now. Here.
And again, I'm gonna leave.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. Here. Sorry.
Yeah, I can see you. Is that any better? Yeah, I will.
Okay, so it's there. We should be hearing audio from just the stream, I think. Oh wait, I have the stream already. Okay, now we should start hearing audio from the stream. As of this point right now, around like a week. Just the stream.
I'm still not seeing your live.
Now we should. You ever see my live one with this point right now? Around like a week.
Oh, is it private? I'm still not seeing.
It's unlisted, so it's it's visible, but not You have to have that link to go to.
Oh, is it private? Send it over.
It's unlisted. Find a window and my mouse cursor, but not Alright. You have to have that. There it is. Okay.
Oh, is it private? Send it over.
It's unlisted. Find a window and my mouse cursor, but not
private. I'm still not seeing.
It's unlisted. There it is. Okay.
Yeah, that seems to be working.
Okay.
I can go on my phone real quick. It'll be a little bit less echoey.
Hey, as long as it sounds okay.
Yeah, I think we're coming through okay. Let me.
Okay.
I can go on my phone real quick. It'll be a little bit less echoey. It still seems echoey.
Hey, as long as it sounds okay.
Yeah, I think we're coming through okay. Let me.
Okay.
I can go on my phone real quick. It'll be a little bit less echoey. It still seems echoey.
Hey, as long as it sounds. I think it's gonna stay a little echoey.
Yeah, I think we're coming through okay. Let me.
Okay.
I can go on my phone real quick. It'll be a little bit. There's this like infinite echo in the background happening.
I think it's gonna stay a little echoey.
Yeah, I think we're. Yeah. So there's this. Let me see. So our call, in the background. It's coming through here. Let me see the live. Let me get it to live on. Yeah. So
I think that might just be because you're listening to it and I'm hearing it.
It's coming through.
How about now?
Here.
Is it going?
Let me see the live. Let me get it to live on. Yeah. So
I think that might just be because you're listening to it and I'm hearing it.
It's coming through.
How about now? Actually, wait, that is. Yeah, it's probably just maybe it's just because you're listening to it. Because you're listening to it and I'm hearing it. And it's echoing back on yours. How about now? Actually, wait, that is. Yeah, it's probably if that makes sense. Alec, really weird holding the phone down like that.
Yeah, somebody already commented saying the audio is muddy.
Yeah, that was at the beginning though. When it was,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Alec, really weird holding the phone down. Hopefully, it's getting better now. And then,
yeah. So it would be my audio going through. Okay. I mean, yeah. So I should be able to link it maybe.
Getting better now. And then,
yeah. So it would be my audio going through. I don't know. I think it should be fine. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna send the link to your stream to a friend and ask them to tell me what it's like. My audio.
Okay.
No, I think it should be fine. Actually, you know what?
Yeah, as long as that seems good. I mean, we can always try a restream or something else later too.
Yeah. I might have to investigate that.
There was one I was looking at, but I forgot the name of it like 3 days ago. I saw it online, somebody was using it, and it looked really cool. It had nice management, like people could just jump into your stream, and you could manage it and lay it all out. I forgot the name of it like 3 days really nice, but I forgot the name of it. I was playing with it, it had nice 4 days ago, and then jump into your stream, you could get around to actually using it, lay it all out. Totally spaced on the name.
Yeah.
I forgot to find it. I'll figure out what it had nice 4 days ago, and then jump into your stream.
Okay, I think we can.
Totally spaced on the name.
Or I'm trying to check the Steam community here. Oh, okay. So that I think we can. That was there. Or I'm trying to check the test here. Okay, that looks okay. And I guess the Steam-powered main page. Or I'm trying to check the test here. Okay, that looks okay. And I guess the Steam-powered main page. Or I'm trying to check the test here. Okay, that looks okay. And I guess the Steam-powered main page. Or I'm trying to check the test here. Okay, that looks okay. And I guess the Steam-powered main page. Or I'm trying to check the test here. Okay, that looks okay. And I guess the Steam-powered main page. Or I'm trying to check the test here. Okay, green. All right, so we're good on OBS. That means that our stream should come back to life here any second. Green. All right, so we're good on OBS. That means that our stream should come back to life. Yeah. So Jake was saying that, you know, Steam basically pulled him on OBS. I think for dead air or something like that. And then Jake was saying that. And then he like lost the rest of it, you know. So basically, I think it's like so when it shows it on the main page or something, he had a bunch of theories about what actually gets shown on the main page, and then he like lost the rest of it, you know. So basically, I think it's like so when it shows it on the main page or something, he had a bunch of theories about what actually gets shown on the main page, and then he like lost.
Well, if everything's looking good, I'm gonna make mine public, and
so when it shows it on the main page, I think we're good.
Get ready to. Get going. I was going to send out a real quick email. Good. I'm going to make mine public about the stream.
Yeah, I think we're good.
And then get ready to just get going. I already opened up the going. I was going to send out a real quick email. Means it's time, right? Stream.
Yeah, I think we're good.
And then, all right, let's get going. I already opened up the going.
Yeah, nice.
Means it's time, right?
Yeah. I'll play the game a little bit as it gets started.
Sweet. No, watch through because I'm sure you've got some changes since the last
I'll play
update.
the game a little bit. Yeah, well, a big piece of it was people with overclocked computers were having their power like pretty much used to 100%. So yeah, I did a frame rate limit, people with VSync and option, and a bunch of other stuff related to that. That was kind of like one of the bigger things that I've done recently. Yeah, I did a
That's it. So it was a frame rate related bug.
Yeah, well, so their frame rates were unbounded, so they were getting like 1,500 frames a second because their machine was overclocked, but it was using their entire processor. Yeah, well, and so all their fans kicked on, they're getting all this other stuff, and so I had two people actually because their machine was overclocked, but it was using their entire processor. Yeah, well, and so the frame rate was just way too high, and so enable VSync or just an FPS limiter. So by default, the game's now limited to 60 FPS, and then way too high. Otherwise, people can enable VSync to get their desired frame rate. So by default, the game's now limited to 60 FPS.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about
it. Oh yeah. It was weird because it was like I was like, oh, it's just one off. Like I'm not gonna worry about it.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
that was Jason W. Oh yeah. And then I was like, oh, that's fine. And then somebody else was like, man, my laptop fan is like going crazy right now. And in both cases, it was somebody's power supply alarm went off. I was like, oh, well. And then somebody else was like, man, my laptop fan. I ended up adding this menu here. Which was an asset store asset, and somebody's power supply. And I was able to just kind of drop this in and restyle it. And so I ended up adding. We have all these options, which was an asset store. VSync, showing FPS, different quality levels. Kind of drop this in and restyle it, kind of a save, and I ended up adding. We have all that was pretty cool. Options. Which was an asset
store. Wow.
VSync, showing FPS.
What asset was that?
It was a $5 asset. Let me see. I'll bring up the asset store just so I can name assets as I'm going.
What asset? I have a slight delay on.
It was a $5 asset.
Like on what I'm seeing.
Oh yeah. Well, that's okay. I think we have a delay here. But apparently, there's 57 people watching.
I have a slight delay on.
It was a stream on Steam, so that's pretty crazy. Well, that's okay. I think we have a delay here. But apparently, there's 50. Yeah. So it's called Audio Video Options Menu, and it was by on Steam. Paulus Creations. But apparently with an it's called Audio Video Options in the name. And so this asset was pretty cool because it just kind of handled all the graphics and audio. You'll notice that it, like the whole background gets blocked out, so like that's part of that asset. Like a background. So this asset was so you just replace all their images, all the graphics to style it with your game. You'll notice that it like kind of have the whole background gets blocked out, and so filtering. So this asset, so you just replace texture quality. And so like if I bring down, I don't know if it'll do it in Unity itself, but yeah, you can see kind of like the graphics got all the detail on the chest is all gone here. And so like if I bring down, I don't know if it'll do it. And then if I go back in and just crank up the texture quality, yeah, you can see kind of like the graphics got all the detail. You see all the detail now in that. So like if I bring down chest, so I don't know, maybe you can't see it because the stream to the stream, but yeah, you can see kind of like the graphics got that was just really cool. So I just thought it was totally worth it. So I don't know, maybe you can't see it because
no, I can see it. I'm just like said a little delayed watching the video versus because I'm not seeing the stream live. But yeah, I see it. That's a huge difference. Yeah. Okay, nice. So you just popped in the asset, swapped out your art, and it just worked.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So there's one thing that I need to fix,
okay, nice.
especially like even on the demo. I have closed menu and quick to desktop, but I don't have like a return back to the thing, so I'm gonna have to modify the asset. So there's one thing that I need, just depending probably on the especially name that it's on. I have closed menu and quick to desktop. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I'm gonna have to modify. You'll also notice that since the last time you saw the game, probably on this chest here is now highlighted. The first one is highlighted, so people kind of know that like, hey, you can click on it while you're doing the dialogue. You'll also notice that since the last time you saw the game, and this chest, and so that gives a hint for the first one, but it doesn't show up for the rest of them. And then kind of go through the rest of the dialogue, pick up your weapon, and I had the axe equipped, so that gives a hint for the first one. So yeah. and then kind of go through the rest of the dialogue, pick up your weapon, and I have the axe equipped.
A lot of progress, man. Sorry, I'm watching as we catch up. Yeah.
And then
Pretty impressive, dude.
Kind of go through the rest of
Yeah, and I think anybody that's watching and hasn't set up some sort of product hopefully has just learned it for $5, and I assume it only take you like an hour or two to set up.
Yeah, and I think anybody it was really, you know, so we've talked about it before, but you know, I only spend a couple hours
for $5, and I assume
each day, you know, 3 days a week working on the game. It was really, and so we've talked about it before, but you know, the end result was, you know, after an hour and a half or so, I basically had a full-fledged 3 days a week system. And it would have been nice to add it in the very beginning, I guess, just because it kind of made it so that people that were playing it had these weird side effects with really fast machines. So and it would have been nice, especially if you're making a game where everything is like super kind of simple. Then it's really important to really fast, you know, more or less, especially if you're making a game where everything is like have this at least VSync turned on by default. I think VSync was the one that like really was kind of messing things up. Especially if you're making and so yeah. So also, I don't know if you saw this before, but I also did this little hint to because some people were getting stuck and then not knowing what to do here when the fire pit lit up. And so now it flashes the different, because some people are getting different fire pits. And so this one does it for the first one and the second one. Hopefully you figure it out by the third one. And so this ends up becoming a pretty significant boss mechanic on the third level. And so this one does it teaching people how to light the fire pits was pretty important. This ends up becoming a kind of pretty significant boss mechanic on the third level.
Yeah, and you do that on the first, that's like right at the beginning, right?
Yeah, right at the beginning. These fire pits also end up lighting up after this fight. So as a transition,
yeah, and you do that on the first. That's like right at the beginning, right?
Yeah, right at the beginning. But these fire pits also end up lighting up after. Yeah, so you kind of fight off all the guys. They kind of ragdoll, toss them around.
Yeah, and you do that on the first. That's like right at the beginning, right?
Yeah, right. I kind of messed it up because yeah, so you kind of fight off all the guys. But toss them around. The first set of fire pits and the second set of fire pits light up. The third set won't light up because I don't want to kind of flash them at you constantly. The first set of fire pits and the second set of fire pits light up. The third set won't light up. So yeah, and for everybody just joining the stream, this is a physics-based hack and slash. And so it's you know, more or less with a lot of dialogue for everybody just joining the stream. This is a so for all the developers out there using Inky for the dialogue systems, trying to put in a lot of dialogue into the game. So for all the developers,
yeah, and Inky was, I think, one of the coolest things that I learned about watching you go through this whole process. Like that whole language, the system, and Inky was the way that you did dialogue.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I learned about watching you go through this whole process. Like that whole language. I would say, like, if there's anything you talk about, it's definitely something like I think that everybody watching should learn about.
Yeah,
I would say, like, if there's anything you talk about, it's definitely something like I think that everybody watching should learn about.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if there's anything you
what is he saying?
It's definitely something real. I think that everybody watching should learn about.
Oh, double, triple echoes on here. What is he saying? So that could be not so good. Let me try and if anybody's having that problem, I'm gonna try and go to headphones and see if that works. So that could be not so good. Let me try. Alrighty, so I'll go to the next fight here, and so these guys are pretty dangerous. They're kind of like bomb guys. So you kind of want to kill those out. So I'll go to the next fight here, and so these guys are and then pretty dangerous. They're kind of like light the fire pits. So you want that sort of things out. So I'll go to the next fight here. Let me take these guys and then pretty dangerous. They're kind of like light the fire pits. So you want that sort of things out. So I'm gonna ask if there's a double or triple echo anymore.
Okay, I'll say something too to make sure that it's not me. Hopefully everything's better now.
I'm gonna ask if
so interesting stream setup, but hopefully it's all good. Okay. and everybody can hear, and then see more stuff. Hopefully everything's better now.
Okay, so we're back.
Interesting stream setup, but
in the game, I'm gonna do kind of.
Hopefully it's all good,
okay.
and everybody can hear, and then hopefully everything's better now.
Okay, so we're back.
Interesting stream setup, but
and we're live right now,
it's all
so if
good.
you wanted to ask questions or anything like that, just let me know.
Hopefully everything's better now.
Okay, so we're back.
Interesting stream
All right,
setup,
so
but
this overhead
we're live
view,
right now,
I've always been kind of like interested in the camera. So like this level's using clear shot cameras, and I know that you had recommended that kind of early on. So this overhead view, this is one of the things that I need to fix. There's so many enemies in this fight here that I need to reduce them because some guys know that you had recommended that kind of early on. So this overhead view, but this is one of the things I thought that was really funny. There's so many enemies in this fight here that I need to reduce them because some guys know that you had recommended that. Yeah, so you see this guy is no longer walking or trying to attack me. So that's one thing that we can kind of like work on a little bit today. But yeah, so you see the fire pit mechanic is still in there. You can kind of like see it kind of flying around. So I'm just gonna light these fires. Work on a little bit today. But so you see the fire pit mechanic is still in there. You kind of like see it. And so also the plan is to go into Steam's early access. And so my plan is to kind of work on this for another year, and so also during that year add a number of features. One thing I've been really considering is adding multiplayer to this. Another year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How would multiplayer work?
So I was thinking about co-op. So there's two main ideas. There'd be one with adding multiplayer, kind of asynchronous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How would multiplayer work?
So I was thinking about co-op. So there's two main ideas. There'd be one with adding multiplayer, kind of asynchronous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How would multiplayer work?
So I was thinking about co-op. So there's two main ideas. There'd be one with adding multiplayer, kind of asynchronous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How would multiplayer work?
So I was thinking about co-op. So there's two main ideas. There'd be one with adding multiplayer, kind of asynchronous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How would multiplayer work?
So I was thinking about co-op. So there's two main ideas. There'd be one with adding multiplayer, kind of asynchronous.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How would multiplayer?
On fire, so to speak, and make it larger. You get energy to use a super attack over time after hitting enemies, kind of like an ultimate ability. And I don't know if you can hear the clangs and stuff like that, but the swords are hitting each other as you're fighting, and you're fighting this boss that kind of resembles the same sort of stuff that you were originally doing. So that's kind of more or less what's in the demo right now, and it's pretty fun. There is a problem also that I can take a look at later, which is the floating sword, so to speak. And let's see. So that kind of
What's the floating sword issue?
Yeah. So when you defeat the boss, his sword still kind of like gets pulled around by his nav mesh, even though the boss has been destroyed. And so.
Okay. So how is that? Just following the player?
Yeah, it's kind of following the player with a circular movement and things along those lines. So that's been pretty funny, but the result really should be that the sword should fall on the ground and then you kind of move on. I have basically like a Kanban board right here with a number of things that I should do related to that. So it's pretty fun. But here's kind of the credits page, as it were, and then jumping back into.
Nice. I fixed my audio issue, by the way, Chris. The problem wasn't you; it was me. I just don't know how to use a computer.
Okay. Check one more time. All right, I'm asking my friend to check one more time.
Okay.
And then I'll just say, how is the audio on the stream?
And I love the visuals of your main menu, by the way. It looks really nice. And that new
Yeah.
logo. You just got that done relatively recently, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I followed your advice. I went to Fiverr and had that done, and I'm really happy with it. He
That was
made a
pretty cool.
poster.
I
And a
like the
couple,
skulls in the corners.
yeah. So the your evil brother. So you play as the Blue Skull, and you kind of get the imp to kind of follow you, and so that's kind of you can see him here in that initial dialogue, and so and then toward the end of the tutorial, you end up seeing or not the tutorial, at the end of the demo, you end up seeing the brother for the first time, and then he harasses you through what I have right now is 12 levels, and so even on top of that, we can kind of add more content and things, especially in Greenlight. So, or not in Greenlight, but in early access. So while I'm doing early access, my plan is to continue just add things. Talking about doing an inventory system and other things. But I've been getting a lot of feedback. The community button in the game brings us back to Discord. And so people have been asking for different features and stuff, and that then ends up kind of translating into feedback. And so I've been working pretty heavily on feedback items. I've also made the levels harder. So I don't know if you noticed, but some of the guys that run at you in the very beginning have much higher health before they would just kind of like die right away. They die pretty quickly still, but I've done a balancing pass throughout the whole thing, and that's been pretty fun too.
What kind of features are people asking for? Like, what's the most popular or most common thing that people want?
So a couple of them. So any of these that are marked with purple are that are on my Kanban board. I know the stream is a little bit delayed, but so things like audio feedback have been a couple of them. So the level 3 boss, the imp starts eating the enemies, and but people were getting too confused with that, and so I was thinking about adding like a nom 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 sound or something like that, just to like show that he's eating, things like that. But some of the really cool ones that I thought were really fun was this idea where have a ragdoll hero attached to the sword. So like you're dragging the sword around, but this guy is like flying along holding the sword as it's spinning around. And so I thought that was pretty funny. And then they were like, yeah, and you can equip items to that hero, and that would give you stats and things like that. So like almost like giving the skull a body, and that body just kind of flies around as a ragdoll as you're like fighting things. And so I thought that was really funny, and I think could add a really good like aesthetic to it.
Yeah, that could be interesting. You could even pick up bodies if you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Equip different bodies and things like that. So I thought that was really funny, and it was like a really great idea. I got that off of Reddit, so I joined the Unity 3D subreddit, and that was really fun. Another one it was like kind of like a Katamari Damacy, like pick up the enemies as they die on your swords, like make like a kebab or something. And so I was like, maybe they get stuck to you and slow you down, and so you have to like kind of work to fling them off or something. So I thought that was pretty funny too. Another one was this idea of like having more momentum. So rather than having the weapon like slow down so much, give the weapon weight. So you have to maybe slow down your spinning, and that would alternate the amount of speed that you need to use on the weapon. So those were all really good pieces of feedback. And then other people were just saying make the game harder or add more enemies attacking you at different places and things like that. So that was those were some of the big feedback items that I got recently. And actually anybody on the streams, in the chats, if you wanted to suggest any feedback right now, I take notes and pretty quickly implement a lot of these things. And so as I work on the game, I'll I definitely take into account a lot of these different pieces of feedback as they go. So this is what I was going to show you earlier too. So I just walked into the pit room again. And so once I defeat all these enemies, the cauldrons start lighting up, but it takes a little while, right? So if you're not stuck, it won't help you, right? But if you're stuck, then it starts lighting them up. I think you can probably see that now.
Right, yeah. So they start lighting up. Is it just like some timeout then? Like you come into the room and after you've finished killing the enemies, that phase ends and there's like a timer going, or
yeah,
how do you set that up?
yeah, exactly. So after the phase ends, there's a little there's a timer to then start flashing each cauldron, and then or each fire pit, and then as they flash, then they can kind of go back and forth. So and then you can light.
Would you be down to show people what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just pausing and seeing like what the where that timer is, or how that process is. I'm curious how you do it. I think other people might be too. People who haven't made a game before, or who are making games and want to see what you did there.
Yeah, so you can kind of see the game kind of working there on the left, and
let's go into pause mode.
Yeah, and so we paused it, and then I dropped it down to the smaller screen size, and then I have this encounter in my waypoints list called the Great Room, and then inside there I have the different spawn areas, and then I have the fire pits that kind of come up. And so as you know, I kind of use a lot of these configurations in the Unity editor to do a lot of my configurations. And so you know, and actually there's something really interesting here, which is like making things flash. But down here on the bottom right, which I don't think you can actually see it on the stream, I have to move the window.
Yeah, you just gotta minimize things.
And then I guess I can minimize the dot.
Yeah, that's a thing. I've gotten into the habit of even minimizing transforms now, just to get that bottom right corner visible when I'm streaming.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got some delay value there, though. And then I assume that's just counting down from whatever it started at or something.
Yeah, so it basically said it had like a starting value, and I can unpause, or I can unplay right now and then show it. But I have to go to the other scene. Hang on 1 second. So we're gonna go to that other scene, and we're gonna just jump in here, and the screen looks all bloody as I'm loading up the scene. And so let's see here. I'm gonna mute the audio because the audio settings don't kick in right away.
Oh.
And let's see here. So we should be able to see that in a few seconds here. And basically, you know, after it gets activated, it just it counts down. It looks like I leave it for 6 seconds or so before, before allowing it to switch the intensity. And the intensity will control the emission intensity on the texture. And then we have the default color and then the alert color. And so what that looks like from a scripting standpoint, oh my God. All right, here, close others.
Oh, let's see that script. I'm curious. Yeah. I assume it's relatively simple, right? Because I mean, right now, I assume anybody that's looking at this and hasn't done a lot of Unity stuff might be kind of overwhelmed with the large number of things. But what's in there isn't too complicated, right? So there's a bunch of different props that are placed throughout the world that all have these similar scripts on them.
Yeah. So what's really interesting, anybody that knows Unity, also, setting the color on a material. I think you told me this, Jason, or I learned this on the call, but it was that the materials will end up. It's really slow to change the color of a material. And so I think this bit of code is the most interesting out of all of this. This is like the biggest thing that I learned in Unity, is in order to keep the frame rate up, setting up property blocks and then applying those property blocks to the renderer. And so this is actually much faster than changing the color of the material, and it doesn't mess up your materials in the system in the first place. And so I found this just super interesting, and it ended up being really cool to implement. Other than that, it's just basically I have this like, if it's activated, go ahead and do the blinking, and then if it's not activated, then I'm just going to lerp back to the original color, and make it so that the blink fades away. And yeah, this little script just came in real handy. I can clean it up a little bit. There's some duplicate code. I should probably have like a material support script that could be a refactoring here. That would
It just sets property block colors.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't, I like this. We do need to create the property block, but it's nice to just have like some quick color settings. And you can kind of see the lerp value and then the intensity, and so I'm multiplying everything by 5 to make it super bright, and then that kind of ends up turning out. But yeah, I mean, if anybody has any questions about the project and on the streams, please chat and wishlist the game too.
And then this is called so I'll present a question.
Mm-hmm.
This is called through Unity events, right? So that activate method that's turning this on line 19 there is getting called by something else in your scene, right? Some other way that you're setting up the scripts to handle up the level of progression, right?
So this is pretty cool. I have this thing, waypoint enemy killed events. And so when all of the enemies are killed, so sorry, yeah, I guess the stream is still a little bit behind, you can't see it, but
that's okay. It's only a couple seconds.
Yeah, so what happens in this script is it fires off a event on all enemies killed. And so I have these two concepts, registered enemies and unregistered enemies. So registered enemies are tracked, and we make sure that they all die before some event gets fired. And then the unregistered, and those are
associated
enemies,
with a waypoint?
Yeah, yes. They're actually, in general, they're global, but the waypoint can have a script here. And so I'll show you what that looks like. It's pretty straightforward too. So I find the enemy manager, and then I have this action that fires that always happens, which is the on all enemies dead. Once they're all dead, then I can just kick off, and it ends up invoking that action, and then firing it once, invoking that action, and then and then I have a couple of helpers on this, but that's basically the thing. So that thing gets invoked, but this allows me to do it on the waypoint, and so there's kind of a cascading effect on all of the different pieces. So a waypoint will fire a set of Unity events, and then that will end up spawning enemies, which will then register those enemies, and then once those enemies are all dead, then it'll fire the other event that will then allow you to activate the different systems and the blinking pieces. So yeah,
that makes sense. So it's just like an easy way to keep track of when all of the things are killed.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had a little bit of the idea from kind of like the massacre stuff inside of Diablo, right? So like in Diablo 3, I think they had like this thing where like when all the enemies, when you're done fighting and like everything is dead around you, then it'll just like show you like how many enemies you killed recently. And so then I was like, well, that's an interesting way of kind of dealing with different events in the game and things like that. So pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, so I just got a comment. It says, this is so awesome. How many chances do we get to see code from games? So
yeah, Chris done a couple streams showing some of the code.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's pretty cool. And yeah, so the event system is pretty interesting. And I use it pretty heavily to just design the levels, and make it so that We can put everything together. Maybe I'll jump to another level just to kind of show a different set of scenery to people. I'm still
Yeah, I
kind
think
of
it'd be interesting to see those maybe a different use of the Unity events too, because I think they're super cool and they're really like extremely useful and they get undervalued. I think I did a video recently about how to use Unity events because for the longest time I didn't use them either. I just kind of ignored them because I preferred to write stuff in code. But I'd say probably like a year and a half ago I converted. And I think they worked out great for you.
yeah, and it was interesting because like I like this idea of like level design and game design happens in the Unity events, and then like
Yep.
software design happens in out of the Unity events or in normal events. Um, and that's been a really pretty interesting thing. As far as like other events happening, let me see here. What is it to exit maximize? It was like shift spacebar, right, in Unity? Maybe not.
Or like control shift space, something like that.
Yeah, something.
I don't know. I just check maximize on play and double tap pause every time.
Got it. Yeah.
I just toggle it and hit pause twice.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So, I have the all enemies dead event, which we talked a little bit about. There was there's actually a really good use of it inside Inky. So, in all of our dialogues, for example, it was really, really a fun thing. But, so this is the dialogue from that demo level, the level that you can play in the demo. And kind of what I'm showing on screen right now is like how I do all the events for the demo, basically tagging each line on there, and so it's been really interesting to have this. So I can do camera transitions, I can do like portrait selection, change the color of the dialogue depending on who's talking, picking up weapons and things like that. So this has been a really cool event system to jump in, and the main thing that I do with that is on the dialogue manager. I actually have these like color or these tags set up, and some of them, especially like event you win or event you lose, those events actually fire different dialogue, or the dialogue actually fires the events to transition to the new level. And so I'll pull it up real quick, but right here we have this dialogue game events, and then I can just fire these events on tags, and this same script is responsible for a bunch of different actions that get caused by the dialogue. And so and the code for it is actually really simple because as soon as you're able to see it, all I do is register with the dialogue manager to process tags, and then I take the tag that you enter inside the editor, and then I fire off Unity events. So now you can write whatever you want in the dialogue, and then you can fire off whatever events you want in the game, and things will happen in the game, like animations can fire off, different other things. And so that was just super fun. So like this is the script right here, and it's it's essentially I'll move it up on the stream so that you can
yeah, no, I see. I was just kind of reading through it. That's interesting. I was curious how you went about it. If you did a single one like this, or just like an array of keys to events or something else.
Yeah, so this one is I just add the same script over and over and over again as many times as I want.
You just have, well, you only need two, so it doesn't make sense to have anything more complicated.
Yeah, so I do have the audio one though. So like dialogue transition queue manager. And so I'll transition back over to the editor to show you that. But that one I actually used. I named the audio files after the events or the tags that I put inside of Inky, and and that lets me just kind of fire those events that way, and it ended up being pretty cool.
Play back from 1 to 1.
Yeah, exactly.
That can come in handy as long as you don't have a team of people that likes to name things ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the whole
Like the,
thing, right? Is like if it doesn't exist, you know, presumably if you're on a team with a lot of people, you could write a little support script that says, "Hey, are there any audio files not named after tags in the dialogue, or vice versa?"
yeah.
And yeah, and so
Nice. I have another question for you.
yeah,
I don't know. Oh, I guess if anybody in my chat has any questions too, I'll forward them off. So if anybody has anything, let me know. There was one, but I want to ask you first.
yeah.
Scriptable objects. Did you use any instances of scriptable objects throughout the entire project? And if so, like, what would one of those be? Or did you find that you didn't need them at all?
I still haven't found a place where I really needed them. You know,
Okay.
I think where I will start using them, because I've been actually investigating adding, you know, more or less the UI needed for this, but it would be in the itemization. So scriptable objects are really good for storing data. And right now I don't have tons of data, you know, across the different pieces of the project. And so I think what will be really important is, and actually these are scriptable assets, but they're coming from, so Dungeon Creator or Dungeon Architect, that one asset that I used to generate a lot of the levels. Dungeon Architect uses scriptable objects, so I do have a configuration file set up through Dungeon Architect, but so that is the one place that I really use them. But where I would
but
use
none
them,
that you haven't come into a situation where you were like, hey, scriptable objects seem like the perfect solution for this thing yet.
yeah,
I mean, I think that there probably are some in your project, but you can get by without them. Like they're certainly like an improvement, not a necessary mandatory thing, right? They're just a way to make some things simpler, but not always to. Sometimes
and the place that I'm going to really use them for sure is in the what do you call it, the inventory system. So having weapons have different properties and stats, and having named weapons and things like that, that's all like data related stuff. And so I will definitely be
unless you end up with an individual model for each one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so the models, I think you can store which model you're using, right? But even then, like, you know, a lot of games that do this have a lot of different models that they might use for, like, or they might use the same model for different weapons, right? And then change particle effects on that weapon and whatever. And so I think that it's a really interesting place to go with scriptable objects to represent the items configurations, you know, unless you're like generating them at random, kind of like a roguelike. But if you maybe have like named weapons that you want to keep static, those weapons would, you know, be, I think, best represented as scriptable objects. In my
Possibly.
mind.
I think, like, for me, it's kind of up in the air on this. Like, for some games, I think scriptable objects would be great for items, especially things where you're going to have just like one visual representation for like 100 different items. But where they're going to be like all very unique, I'm somewhat inclined to lean towards prefabs and prefab variants too. So you can have a prefab that just has a variant that changes the particles or something too. And there's definitely situations where I could see, like, if I really want to scale it out to insane numbers of items, then going down a scriptable object path would make sense, or where the mapping's not so much one-to-one. But yeah, I'm kind of up in the air. I wouldn't really lock into either way for those, but it is an interesting one because I used to be heavy on thinking like I would always want to do items as scriptable objects, until I started doing things where every item had different visuals, and it was becoming a one-to-one mapping anyway. And I was like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm just mapping this thing and rebuilding this object again back into a prefab every time.
Well, if you have a good a thought about a good spot, we could add some. I'd be happy to try it out right now.
Oh no, I don't have anything offhand. I don't want to try adding anything there. It's interesting. But I mean, I think that items, inventory, stats type stuff can be good. Persistence related stuff, saving some data in there, like across levels, cross scene eventing, they can come in really handy for that too.
Yeah.
Lots of cool different little uses for scriptable objects. But they're not a thing that everybody uses a ton of. So it's a pretty big thing. And yeah, I think people are even mentioning in chat prefab variants kind of made a big change. And for me, that's like the one thing that the prefab variants are the one thing that made scriptable objects less of a must-have for inventory stuff. Without those, I think they're kind of almost a must. Because
I mean, yeah, that is...
prefab is too much. You want to make small change things, but like you want to change the texture on something or the material, you don't want to have a bunch of copies of that thing. But
yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a question though about the timer stuff versus a coroutine. So the way that you're doing your timers on your countdowns, is that more performant than doing a coroutine? And that was like back when we were talking about the delay before showing the flashing of stuff.
Yeah. So
you wait like 6 seconds.
So this code right here. Yeah, I could have definitely done this as a coroutine. So I learned, I started doing this way basically when, back when I was using a canvas in like Android apps to make games. That canvas ended up being the main thing, right? So like it was so I had this main loop, and I didn't really have such a thing as coroutines. So I got into the habit of doing this. Coroutines have benefits and drawbacks. I don't know. Do you know if it's more performant? I don't know for sure.
I would think a coroutine would probably be a little bit less performant, but neither one's going to make any difference in actual real world. Like between these two, you're not going to notice anything. But I think a coroutine is going to have a little bit more of an upfront cost in running it. And starting it up, shutting it down, versus just having this component with an update method on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was kind of interesting because like I use coroutines from time to time, but stuff like this where I think especially since I'm lerping values, right? So unless you're using like dotween or something like that to lerp these values, then being in an update loop is here. So the design decision, the reason I chose to do this in the update loop rather than doing it in the coroutine was mainly because I needed access to the delta time over, on every frame or every update loop, which happens more often than each frame typically. And so this like math.pingpong right here was really important to have this delta time involved on, and so that needed to run every update loop.
I think you could theoretically do that just fine in a coroutine too, but it would be, there wouldn't be. I don't think there's any benefit. Your time.delta time would still be valid.
Yeah. So I mean, so one thing I'm like wary of is running a coroutine like unbounded. I guess you could run until end of frame or something like that.
Yeah, you do a yield return null every frame in the loop.
Yeah,
you'd have to do a while loop, and I think it would just be extra stuff. Like, but you could still get away with it, but you wouldn't get any benefit.
Yeah. So this would run. Yeah, this would run every frame. I don't know how often the loop. I guess you could yield return, wait until end of frame.
Yeah, well, if you do a yield return null, it would do the same thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
It'll wait for the next frame.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. It basically will work like an update, unless you've got multiple in there and you're yielding on something else.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah. So this has been pretty interesting. Let's see here. Yeah, so one thing I noticed is that my weapon pickup seems to only work for the demo now, and so I was going to show another level, but now it's not picking up my weapon anymore.
You're breaking the game in production?
I did, but that's okay.
That's not under test, I take it.
Yeah, exactly. Not under test. No. So let me find out here. So we basically, the thing that picks that up is the dialogue manager, and then we have these managers here, and so there's this weapon manager that allows you to pick them up.
The dialogue manager is triggering an event when you click on one of the options, right? So you pick an option, it's triggering some event. It's telling the weapon manager swap to this weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And so like one thing I can do here is just like print, and then do $1, and then weapon name.
So now you're just gonna log out what weapon it's trying to.
Yeah, or if there's a dialogue, and then comma, and then like selected weapon, something like that.
Okay.
Just try and find out what's going on there, and so that I can kind of fix it live.
Would that you want to print out the the selected weapon name too, or are you doing?
I did, yeah, I did that. I did the second row, right here, selected weapon name. Oh yeah, sorry.
You're already throwing an exception when it doesn't exist too, right?
Yeah, and I do see object reference not set to an instance of an object, so I need to go in and check and see why that's happening. And this would be, I guess this is what we wrote on the other stream that we did together, and so somehow it works on the first level, but apparently has no longer works on this level.
Interesting. I don't remember how that worked. So it was loading up like what your past loaded weapon was from player preps, I think, right?
Yeah.
Grabbing that back out and then putting it on, and then trying to equip it. So you click on one.
Whoa, I'm getting beat up over here. All right, so fallback editor window. So that's this one, which I think is just the set current window weapon. Ugh.
Did you find the error?
I found an error. It keeps taking me to a different line than I'm expecting, though, for sure.
Yeah, ignore the fallback editor window and stuff. I think it's just a Unity editor layout thing.
Yeah.
You can just totally ignore those.
Sets current weapon. Oh, interesting. The
is it your rage manager not existing?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so you don't have a rage thing in this scene.
Oh, fascinating. So and that would be on the player weapon mount. So let's just.
Oh, and you're passing that in though. Set current weapon takes that as a parameter. So where does that come from?
Yeah, let's find that out.
Is that like something that you, for some reason, have to place in every scene?
Return weapon. So this is getting referenced to the get weapon. Yeah, it might be, and that might be where it had come from. Let's see. So we had.
Gotta love these bugs where like one totally unrelated thing breaks it too.
Yeah, I know. It's like so random. The pickup weapon.
It's like the most common thing though. It has nothing to do with what you're expecting. Nothing to do with your weapon or
Rage
player
enables overlay. Yeah, okay. So weapon pickup is the piece here. And so this is it right here.
Oh, okay. And this references one?
Yeah. So these managers were set up on the other system. So actually, what happened was this this prefab. Whoops. This prefab, the manager's prefab, does not have this set up with all of the different. Yeah. So the rage. Oops.
Okay, is it just in the prefab? So you can just go modify the actual prefab, right? The weapon manager prefab, or is it your manager's prefab?
Yeah. So we have the weapon manager, we have the music manager, which is up here. So these things are just getting set up.
That rage thing on in this scene or in this prefab?
It is not in this prefab.
They're not part of the prefab. That's the problem.
Yeah. That is quite unfortunate.
Time to separate those out. Yeah. Is there only one rage overlay, or is there more than one?
Well, they are in every scene. So this is stuff that should have just kind of come along with each scene, and probably warrants a refactoring. But
Oh, okay. So the rage things could probably just go into that manager's prefab, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Or do you have like you have a HUD prefab, and they're probably under that, huh?
Yeah, well, these overlays are just separate prefabs anyway. So what I could do is go into every level and remove it. So I'll just try this out and just make sure that the fix works, and then we can kind of come back to it.
Okay. So, by the way, for anybody watching, one of the things that I would recommend is to get the UI and the management stuff ideally in a separate scene, like where it's separated from the level specific stuff. Then
Yeah.
Run into less of these problems. I think it's probably not too hard for you to make that as a change, but
yeah, we should. I would like to actually try that. Yeah, so there's my weapon. It showed up now. You kind of see it there.
It's definitely that's like one of the main things I'd recommend to people, like have a scene that's just got all that, all your stuff that's staying around for the life cycle of your game, so that way you don't have to recycle those objects and reset them and stuff, and then just have like the actual content, if you can, be swappable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Then you don't, most of it, then you can set up these references, and you always have to think it. And then scriptable objects and maybe eventing through there may be a good way to get around your current limitation, though, where you're locked in, where you can't send you can't get the message across because it's on another prefab, essentially.
Yeah.
But you could set up like a scriptable object event listener. Essentially works like doing Unity events, but through the project instead, where you could fire off something on another object, where you listen on another one, just like you do with your regular events, but you're just doing them with scriptable objects and linking them up with Unity events.
I am definitely gonna lose here. This is like the first time I've played this game or played the version of this level without with the new difficulty. Yeah, not the first time I played this game for sure.
These archers. Oh man.
Yeah, they really messed me up.
Your health bar is covered, though. I can't see how low you are.
Yeah. He's dead now. That was I could have been so powerful. Yeah, I might need to reduce the difficulty a little bit. Maybe not. We'll see. So, yeah. So actually, I was thinking about this a lot. These scenes could definitely use. Yeah, I guess I haven't really done the load a partial scene thing before. Or I haven't done it, like in any of the games that I've worked on. I've seen it done in the past. So maybe we could create a new scene and try that out and just see what it would look like. And then maybe a lot of these problems that we just experienced here might go away.
Yeah, sure. I just get committed first.
Yeah, exactly.
Check everything into source control before it all breaks.
Yeah.
And in the process, pretty simple. We just add in a new scene. You can add it additively now. When you go to file and you see it, it'll give you like a little pop-up dialog, and you can actually add it as an additive scene instead of having to drag them around and re-add it in there. Or that may, oh yeah, it could be and then you just take all of the common shit and drag it right into there.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
And then just start. Then the next step would just be setting up the scene loading so that it loads up both scenes.
Level 5 weapon pickup. Push that. So are you saying that a single scene can just have another scene dragged into it and it'll load it by default?
No, you can just have two scenes loaded at the same time. You just have to write a little bit of code to keep that one common scene that you want open. So when you load a scene, instead of doing load scene, just do load scene additive, or load scene. You do load scene async and scene mode dot additive, and then you just unload whatever the previous scene was.
Okay.
So you unload whatever the existing level is, but you keep your common scene or whatever, the stuff that's got your managers and all that loaded. You just unload the other level scene and load the new level scene additively. Just kind of swap them out. And as long as that's just the environment and the level specific scripts, and the things in your scene, in your common one, can handle resetting to wherever they need to be for the thing, and don't need to be reinstantiated to work, then it'll work. If your objects all need to be reinstantiated though, like your managers all require like things on start and await to work for each level, then it's probably quite a bit bigger refactor.
Yeah, I don't think it'll break much. Here, I'll commit to Git as well, so we can have an easy time coming back. 5 now does weapon select properly, and then I'm gonna go over here and say something like, all right, so I already added the cloud save. Oh yeah. So that's one thing I did, a Steam cloud save. That was pretty interesting to add that. Let's see, fix rage overlay on weapon pickups. Yeah. So yeah, making the game easier to maintain, because going into early access, I'm going to be working on this game a lot for some time, and so my plan is to just keep adding features to this constantly. So anything to make it more maintainable right now is probably a good idea.
I think we should do the scriptable object thing first.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Because it's a smaller impact, and it might kind of impact, or how you, like, when you see it in action, if you like it, it might impact how you decide to do your scene stuff. And it's really simple and small to do.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
So let me just pull up. There's actually, Ray has a really good example that shows exactly how to do it, and I will just send it to you right now, and then you can kind of see it in action. I think we can look at it, look at how it works, and you'll understand exactly how to implement it. It's really simple. Where is my window to send you a message directly? It's one of these millions of windows I've got open. Okay, so yeah, can you pop that tutorial up real quick?
Let's see here.
And then you just go down to the game events and listeners part. So the way he's working, it's essentially just observer pattern with events, but using the scriptable object as the as the event. So things are invoking the event from outside of it, so kind of like an event. Outside of game objects can invoke it, but then any other game object can also register for it because it's in the project, because the scriptable object's not actually a scene object, it's project one. Anything can register for it, and then you can just fire back out to it. So that way you can do really easy cross-scene or cross prefab messaging or eventing with these two simple objects. So they have theirs as a game event and the game event listener. I think you could just copy those two scripts in, and then pretty much just have that work.
Let's see. Oh, okay. So it's scrolled to a different anchor.
Yeah. So go down to the game events and listeners section. There's two little scripts that they've got there, and I mean, really just dropping both of those in, creating a new game event scriptable object should give you the ability to start linking these things across prefabs.
Folder
is a whole lot less work than doing scene change at first.
Interesting. Well, I like that.
And it's also flexible because it's going to let you do it for any other situations like this where you want to send something from a prefab to another thing, or to a scene object from a prefab or something like that.
Let's see here.
Have you got it pulled up?
Did you get
the two scripts in there? Okay, cool. You got them both pasted, and I'm watching now. I was just looking at it. So yeah, you get your game event. That's the scriptable object, and then once that compiles, you should just be able to go right-click in the project view and create a new game event. Call it like show whatever rage overlay. You do one for each rage overlay, like the axe rage overlay, the sword rage overlay, and the hammer rage overlay. And then you just put the listener on the rage overlays themselves.
Yeah, sounds good.
So you make the listeners who'd be on the rage overlay objects to just do whatever you want them to do to turn themselves on or whatever. Yeah, and then you fire it off on the other thing.
Okay, so let's see here. Just clean up some comments here.
And then you can use a Unity event to raise that game event. So for the game event.raise, fire that out of another Unity event.
And we'll just drop this. So the rage overlay is a script that when fired will actually, it does the, it highlights the screen.
Okay. Is there an object on there? Or is that script that it's like always on and alive?
No, it's only on. Okay, so I'll show you what it looks like in the scene view real fast.
Okay. I think you probably want to put it on a parent of that or something else then that's going to be around every time. To be the listener, essentially. I'm almost caught up on the stream.
Yeah. Let's see here. I just need to... It was compiling, so I think adding it to the project and everything. Okay. So this rage overlay is this like outline here. So if I turn it off, you can kind of see the difference off and on when it shows up. And so it's the animation that plays while you are enraged over the screen, more or less.
Okay, so but the canvas. Okay, so you turn the entire canvas object on. Or you turn the entire object on.
Yeah, so this drawer, so there's an animator. I think that's what it is. So the rage canvas, let me find it here. Rage screen overlay. I think it's on all the time, but set rage percentage.
So on those rage overlays, you could just add the event listener, right? The game event listener as a component on the rage overlay.
Okay, so each of these weapons right now are just have reference to this rage overlay, but it's outside. You know, they're separate, right?
Right. Instead of doing that, give the weapons a reference. So create a scriptable object for each one in the scriptable object folder. Like make a project folder.
Will this be kind of like at the level that scripts are at? Maybe
it would be at the level where prefabs are, so like a sibling to prefabs essentially. And see, or at least that's where I usually put mine. I mean, you put them however you like the folder structure, but
yeah. So we have scripts and then scriptable objects,
right? Or prefab siblings.
Okay, create, and then we're gonna say, is it just a C# script, or is there something?
No, you go into scriptable objects and then right click, and you should have a new option, game event. It's going to be your third one from the top.
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
So that was the create asset menu attribute at the top of the scriptable object.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense.
You can give it a menu name and then a new file name. So the new scriptable or new game event is from the file name part.
Cool. All right. Yeah.
So then, just name one for each of the rage overlays, like hammer rage and whatever rage, and the 3 different ones.
Okay.
And you can just make one and then Control D and duplicate it. Make the other 2. And then you would go over to the items that we're currently trying to reference the rage overlay.
Sword, axe, and club.
I'm like bouncing around in my chair. I can see it on the stream delayed. My chair is wiggling back and forth. I realize how little I sit still when I'm looking at code.
Yeah. For
sure. I have a hard time with it. All right, cool. So you got all 3 of those made, right?
Yeah.
And then on the weapons, so right now the weapons use rage enables screen overlay. So instead of whatever they're doing to turn that on, you just want to have a reference to your game event and call raise on it instead. So wherever rage enable screen overlay is turning on in the code, just raise your game event instead. So you got to change the reference to your game event and just change the line to enable to .raise or whatever.
So when we set the current weapon, that goes all the way down into here, which then has the set rage manager. So this rage enables screen overlay script would that would have it, right? Instead.
Yes. Instead of having the rage enables screen overlay script, you're not going to reference that at all. That's going to reference the event too. So both of those things are just going to reference the game event separately instead.
Okay.
So you're just going to break the dependency there between rage enable, or the link between the rage enables one.
Yeah, so that's just the object that I'm passing down into it, right? So like, where is that going to
So
go?
you're going to replace that here. So in weapon pickup, instead of on line 17 having that, just have a game event called like on pickup, picked up or equipped or whatever.
Let's see, on pickup, I guess, right?
And that should be a serialized field too.
Okay.
All right. And then when you do your pickup, just call that on pickup.raise.
Pickup weapon. So this is the set current weapon, and it passes it in.
Yeah.
So should I just pass
But,
it
I mean,
in
you
here?
can probably just call it from here, right? You don't need to pass that all the way down into your weapon manager and other stuff, I don't think.
Okay.
Because you're always when you pick up a weapon, you're always setting it as the weapon, right?
Yeah, so the set current weapon does a number of wiring up, but yeah, so we can just comment this out right now, and we can remove this parameter. And
Yeah, I mean, you
then-
can obviously move this shit around once it makes some sense.
and so this one here, we remove that. Okay, so there's no dependency there anymore. We're just saying on pickup raise.
Okay, cool. So then in your rage enable screen manager, that's the part that's on the canvas parent, right? No, actually just go back or go to the rage enable screen overlay script real quick. What's the method on it that actually activates the rage thing?
Let's see.
Is that a public method on there that's accessed? Because we could just add a game event listener now to the rage overlay.
So let's see here. So I have this other script here. Actually, that's just the set rage on that thing. But if we go into the rage manager itself, okay. So this event right here, that turns on as soon as rage manager fires. So this event right here is actually what fires to start it up. And so what happens is if we go back here, it's just wiring this up. So this thing says, so the screen overlay gets a target percentage, and then it will then turn it on or off depending on that percentage. So if it's set to 1, it will go into full rage mode. And then there's like different percentages of rage that you could be at that point.
Okay, can you go back to the project view? Where were the different rage screens? You have 3 different ones, right?
No, there's only one right now. But yeah. So this is just the animation.
Case, yeah, in the project view, I think we just add a game event listener. In fact, in that case, do you even need 3 separate messages or just 1?
It would just be 1 message, I think.
Okay, yeah. So in that case, you just need
that.
1. And yeah, you just added a game event listener on the rage overlay parent.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a rage overlay. This kind of feels
just
like
on that parent of the rage overlay object. I think you could add a game event listener, and then you would enable the child, the rage overlay image, when that event is raised.
Yeah. Well, okay. So specifically, I think what I would be doing here is, as soon as we want to turn it on, we just set the the target rage percentage on the screen overlay animator, I think is what it is. So whoops, I guess that.
Okay.
So this
so
one
you're
right
saying that
here.
This thing can be on the entire time then.
So this set rage call is the thing that we need to call.
Okay. Yeah, you can just add that in the game event list.
Okay, so I got to create a new game event listener as well.
No, yeah, you just add it as a component, right? You just add the game event listener as a component to that.
Okay. So let me
rage
make this public.
object.
Um,
Yeah, and then make it public and call set rage. Or, yeah.
Okay, and then we're gonna go back in here. I think I see where we're going with this, so this is pretty cool. And then we're going to set game event listener on the rage overlay. Yep. And then we have this game event rage overlay. And then we're just going to drag this in, and then we're going to say rage enabled set rage. Where's my rage? Rage enable screen overlay. Didn't I make that a public function? Public void. Rage enabled screen overlay. Public.
You might have a compiler error. It looks like you do. That's why.
Thanks.
Looking down at the bottom, I see a little red line of error.
That is a great point.
They usually stop your methods from showing up.
My text animator definitely should not be a problem, though. Let me see here. I'm going to clear
It looked
this.
like it's something with the rage enables thing that it got removed.
Yeah, there we go. I like that.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to look in chat, too, for questions as we get through. I think this part's almost working. Hopefully people have just learned how to make scriptable objects work.
Yeah, no, this is a really cool thing, because this means that you can wire up all these events without having to have references to the objects. This is fantastic, I think.
Yeah,
it's, really cool.
It's a really neat little system. A lot more people should know about. I'll just do a video about it.
Yeah.
Be an interesting one. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm gonna write that down in my list of videos to do this week. Trying to do like a video a day this week. So
nice.
Man, that's a good one. I'll do that. To share. I mean, I know you've got a video out there on it, but just keep sharing stuff. Get more people on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, anybody who's watching my stream and hasn't checked out, there's a link on the stream right now to go check out the game Chris is working on, wishlist it, go hit the wishlist button, like it, thumbs up it, please. It helps him, it helps everybody, and yeah, you learn about game stuff too.
Absolutely.
And if you're watching on Chris's stream, you should have already, I assume, wishlisted it.
And go to Jason's channel, Jason Wyman's channel.
All right, so let's see. Is it working?
Okay. No, but I'm trying to think of like why it wouldn't. Okay, so on pickup raise would on pickup raise is gonna fire the event, but I don't think that's actually. Oh, we never actually wired it, I think.
Did you not add the event?
Yeah, I don't think I did.
The game event when you okay. To the actual item, right? So each weapon pickup should have that.
Rage overlay, there we go. And then on
otherwise you're gonna be hitting an exception.
Just game event raise, right? I think is what we're looking for.
Yes. Well, it's gonna be what an on pick.
Okay.
And actually, yeah, you won't get an exception, like, because it won't be null. You'll just get no event. No, wait. You have an on pickup field there. So you, I guess, yeah. Did you see that?
No.
You have a game event. You added it, you're triggering it from the game event, but you also have a field that you left null that's doing the same thing. So you could just use the game event instead of having the field.
Right there. Okay. So. Page overlay manager. Oh, okay. So the game.
Yeah, you've got both. I think if you already have a pickup events that are generic, you use that too instead. Or you use one or the other. You probably just don't need both.
Set rage. True. Okay. Here we go. I think we're in a good spot now. I was a little confused.
Oh.
So this would turn on the rage.
Yes. On the listener, you want to do the set rage, and then on the other one. But I think right now you're calling it twice, right?
Oh yeah, there it goes. I don't know when it actually wouldn't turn it off at this point, but yeah. So it's just kind of in the wrong spot now, but it totally. I mean, that's really nice because now you can fire events from anywhere and not have to ever wire them up again. So I have a lot of places that I want to incorporate this.
But you do see where you had it in there 2 times, right?
Let me go find it.
Then make sure that it doesn't mess with you later.
On pickup raise.
It's just that you have the event and then you also have the game event. So you're calling raise on it and you're calling it from your Unity event as well.
Oh, I see. Okay, whoops.
I think you only need it in one of those two.
Yeah, okay.
Whichever one you're gonna go with.
All right. So that was down in here. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably just get rid of that serialized field if you already have a Unity event for it.
And then, this works. This is great. And geez, I didn't do that inside the manager prefab, so I need to just try it one more time. Adding it to the game event thing here, and then oh yeah, and then I guess in here this also has to be added to the override. Apply all. Perfect. Okay, so now theoretically in a level that this wasn't working in, we should see it working now. Let's jump over to level 8.
I'm going to start taking some questions too and forwarding them on to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
One was about dependency injection and scriptable objects and whether or not that was a good idea. I think scriptable objects, yes. I don't know so much about DI in the Unity context. I assume you didn't use any DI frameworks here?
No. I see a lot of blogs talk about this because I was really curious about this myself. And what I typically end up seeing is dependency injection ends up being the Unity editor is your dependency injection system, because it's basically anywhere that you'd wire up dependency injection, it's the same thing in code. It's essentially the same thing in a DI platform or in the editor, in the sense that if you just dragged on the objects into a list of objects that you wanted to dependency inject based on type, that's where you would do it. And so a lot of people, there is a DI framework for Unity, but I don't see a lot of people using it a ton, that sort of thing. So
I think I totally agree. I think the editor is kind of like the ultimate DI framework. It's hard to use another framework and not lose most of the power that you get with the editor.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and for the same reason that we use Unity to set those values. So like what we're doing right now with the events, right? The Unity events. If you're a game designer, then you're not going to see anything about dependency injection. And so dependency injection would essentially hide things that need to be wired up from the game designer. So that might be okay. You might have some subsystems in the background that you might use it for, but you should be careful with that as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does to me.
Okay.
Let me see. Going through a couple other questions that are popping up, seeing what else people are asking about. And apparently, somebody mentioned that Unity Atoms is going to have a whole dependency linking system similar to the Ryan talk that I assume people have seen, that one on scriptable objects and eventing. It's kind of like what we just did there, but they have this whole advanced system that they use for making a whole bunch of games. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. I hadn't seen that, but curious. Yeah. Okay, and then somebody else was asking, what about the EULA for a game on Steam? How do you create one? I assume you just get, like, when I've done it myself, I just grabbed like a generic one that I found online and posted that. I assume you do the same, like find like a generic
so I struggled a lot with this too. So a lot of games out there, if you look at them, even AAA titles, some of them don't have EULAs on them. And so there's like the Steam default, and then the other ones. But you really got to understand what the implication is for you to have one or not have one. I think it has a lot to do with data protection now, like GDPR and CCPA, legal related stuff. And so you just want to make sure that you protect yourself, especially if you're collecting information about the user or what they do in the game. But so there's like some general Steam protections, and so what I might do first is look at what games are like your game, and then figure out, do they often have EULAs or not, and why, and then maybe make a decision based off of that instead.
What did you go with?
Right now, I'm not using a EULA. But before, so it was really weird, because when I was doing games on Android, I'd have a EULA pop up on Android and have people agree to it. And I even had 1-star reviews basically saying, "A EULA, really? Why are you doing this?" Da, da, da. And so I was like, well, do I really need it or not? Because people are like freaking out anyway that it exists even. And so that's kind of where I got a little bit stuck with it. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
Fair enough. I guess that's a good enough reason to cut it cut it out.
Yeah. It's just a weird thing for sure. Okay, so we have this like rage manager. I'm trying to figure out where I need to fire that event, because I don't think I fired it in the right spot. Okay, so here's the set rage here. So that scriptable event, I'm curious, is there a way for me to pass true or false into, well, yeah, I guess I can't wire it up
Sure.
appropriately. I'd need to do it in the editor for the true and the false, and I'd have to have 2 events, really, right?
Or you could make that take a parameter, right? You can make a game event that takes a parameter.
Oh, okay.
You can make it take a bool as the parameter there, and then it would just have a checkbox on your game event when you're firing it.
Yeah, okay. So if I go back here, this is where we said on pickup raise, but this is not really what I want, because it's going to as soon as you pick it up, it will fire, which won't work, right? So instead, it's going to be right here, and then this should be set rage. So the game event can take maybe I would need to make a new one. Is that right? Let's see, event.
Were you using a Unity event to fire it, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, you want one to turn it on and one to turn it off?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then just 2 events. Sorry, I think 2 events makes more sense. Way more sense than a Boolean parameter. Yeah, just duplicate your event.
Yeah, okay.
Have a enable and disable.
So in here we'd say on dot raise, and then set rage off dot raise, and then raise and raise. Okay, so those would be there.
Sorry, I misunderstood what you were trying to do there. That makes sense.
No, yeah. Let's see here. So we're gonna go enables rage screen overlay. So a lot of that stuff is now unneeded, but let's just get it working properly at this point. So I guess the code that I just modified was right here. So rage manager. So the rage manager just needs the events. Oh, this is really good. This will clean up. This cleans up a lot of stuff. This is great.
Yeah, it really simplifies a lot of those references, and just, I love it as a simple little system to use. And I mean, you can use it however you want. Like some people have these really complex systems they've built on top of it, a bunch of layers and stuff, or you can just go like, basically as simple as this, and it just works. I really like.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead. More questions are good if you got it. Let me see here.
Get rid of the little bit of spam. It's nonsense. All right. Yeah. So there were some questions. Let me see what they were though. I gotta scroll back up and see them. Oh, actually, one is perfect for you because it's one that you talk about all the time, which was about UI stuff. And it said, how do I get my UI text elements to behave? Any tips for dynamically resizing width height of a rect transform and its
Oh
contents
man.
that start to overflow? This is
I,
when I've seen you show like the fixes for this dozens of times. So you
yeah.
do a really good job of explaining how to fix this. So if you've got messed up UI text or had any messed up UIs in your game, I think Chris is going to show you how to fix
Yeah,
it.
that sounds really good. Let me find out where I'm missing the rage manager right now. I need to
Okay.
find out where that is, and then
Just search for Rage Manager in your project or
I
in your
know.
scene view.
I mean, that's the whole thing. I don't think it's in there, which I think it's on a prefab. So let me run this
Oh,
real
is it
quick.
not in your scene view?
Yeah, it's being instantiated and on a prefab when it gets like all set up, but there should be should work okay.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
You just need to make you're gonna turn it into a prefab and keep it up instead as child to manage
yeah.
or something.
So let's see. I'll undo the maximize here, and then we'll just drop this in. Oh, maybe not. Oh, that's because the weapon's not there. Okay, so hang on. So as soon as he walks away, I think it's gonna pop out. Yeah, there we go. So in the weapon itself, the rage manager exists, and so we just need that rage on and off inside there. So we're gonna head over to that prefabs, and then let's see. So we're gonna do the player weapon, so not in enemies. So inside player, we have this prefab that's like the base object. And then in here on the main object, here's the rage on and rage off stuff. And so we're gonna just go to the rage overlay, rage. Oh wait, okay. So I need to make two of these objects, right? Rage overlay.
Your Skulls Impossible quest text is covering your
Oh
area.
no.
Collapse the children or drag over. Can't see your little references. They all look the same.
Let me see here. We'll just move this down here. Hopefully that'll move it. Okay, so we got on
Rage on and rage off, or rage overlay on and rage overlay off.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it could just be rage. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so those will listen for those two events, right? And then back over in our scene, the weapons themselves will need to fire those events probably.
Yeah, the weapons should then fire those events, I think.
Weapon manager.
Right. So whenever you pick them up, which they're actually underneath the weapon manager, right? They're separate prefabs.
Yeah, your audio got really strange.
And then what's the individual prefab under your weapon manager?
I don't know what happened to your audio, but you lost all your bass.
I did?
Yeah, you sound like super far away or underwater right now.
Oh, weird. I don't know.
All right. Well, it seems to be. It's still okay. I can still hear you. It's just kind of weird sounding.
That is strange. Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds.
I'll
okay.
just talk with a really, really deep voice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so my rage overlay here. Okay, so this thing is the game event listener. Okay, I understand now. Okay, so what we need to do is just go into this prefab. In the prefab, we'll just say in the rage overlay manager, we're gonna we're gonna add another one of these listeners. Game event listener. We're going to say off. It's gonna turn off. And then we're going to add another one of those. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to say, turn it off. Set rage to false. Fantastic. And then we've now got, let's see, rage on, rage off, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so hopefully this will work now.
All right. Is it better?
Yeah, you sound great now.
Okay. I just muted and unmuted myself.
Yeah,
And is it fixed? Did it work?
We're gonna try it out right now.
Find out in a second.
Yeah. And I have to live long enough to actually
to get it to the, well, you can just see the rage thing enabling and disabling too, right?
Yeah. But so the problem is that I have to hit the enemies hard enough to like actually oh, it's going pretty fast actually. When you're surrounded, apparently it builds up faster. So this is where it would show up right now. Yeah, so there it is. It's on. And then as it finishes up, it should go away. Yeah, perfect. That worked great.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I wish I had known about that. I'm going to use this all the time now. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do that first, because I figured like that has a lot more reuse and you can apply that anywhere, and it might just make it so you don't need to do the other stuff, right? Like,
yeah,
if everything works with prefabs and your references don't work, you may not get the benefit of splitting out more. Cool. So you want to show the text thing now?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and
show everybody how to do text that resizes and doesn't break when you try to put your game out on Steam or something, or
oh man,
download it on mobile.
you know, it was really funny because like I did have a couple people with ultra wide monitors send me screenshots of things that were screwed up, so I can show a little bit of that and then what I did to fix them.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
And so on my Discord here, let me see. Actually, let me find the message first. So yeah, okay. So I had this. Oh, geez, where is it? Nope, that's Twitter. What happened to Discord? Let's see. Well, maybe it got deleted. Let me try and find that one more time. Oh, my imp is going to die very soon here. Ugh. I'm gonna bring this on the stream in 1 second.
All right.
So here, can you see that? Let me see. So
okay, I'm waiting for it to pop up now. Yeah, I'm on my phone right now, by the way.
Oh no.
So, yeah. About my audio, yeah, it's she's in the phone. We had a weird streaming setup, but it's working out okay, I guess. It's all right. Is Discord up? Waiting for it. I'm just a little bit delayed on there, waiting for that to pop up.
Yeah, so you'll see on the left and on the right there are bars where things didn't line up properly, right?
Yeah,
and that's because it wasn't wide enough, right? So let's go to that. We'll go into the demo because I think he was playing the demo at that point. And
that happens to a lot of people too, where they'll build out the game and it looks perfect in there, especially if they start like in free aspect ratio and they don't think about an aspect ratio at all. Like they'll build it out and they'll do an actual build that doesn't look right. But then when you set it and lock it into one, you get the same problem.
Yeah, and it's like super painful to deal with. And so that's been an interesting kind of result. But let's see here. So so that options menu. Let's talk a little bit about that. So just scaling the screen and spacing it out. So one thing that people don't realize is that things will actually stretch and skew based on the anchors. And so, for example, this menu background here, actually, if I go into this prefab, that'd probably be better. Open that up, and then turn this on, and then the image background, and then, okay, so, I don't know if you can see this, shift spacebar.
Yeah, so you're gonna start with the canvas and the canvas setting and scaler.
Yeah, and so there's these blue dots, and then there's also the scaling of the blue dots. And so this background, so the way that the background was set up before and versus what I had before. And so for example, the blue dots are going to be where the anchors are, or where the I guess the stretch is, and then the triangles, the little transparent triangles, are where the anchors are. And so in this, I always wanted the background to stretch past the border of the screen. And so in order to fix the super wide monitor problem, I put the anchors a little bit inside of each of the corners. And so it will stretch the image based on the size of their screen. So like that's the simplest thing that's out there. But what's a lot harder are things like buttons and stuff. So let me get out of maximize here, and we're going to just jump into, let's see, services. The buttons.
So then this is just preventing the sidebars from showing up because you've anchored it in there so that it's just trying to do like the white area essentially for the draw, but anything that's off to the edge, it'll still have a little bit of texture there that's just drawing off there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now you can have like other things where you want the buttons to like compress and expand differently. So
right.
I'm gonna,
or you want your button to stay on the screen. So like, so let's say you want your button to not go flying off. Say your button is flying way off the screen every time you resize the resolution.
Yeah. So let's see. I'll show this a little bit. So I can go into free aspect mode and then just kind of like skew the screen a bunch.
Oh yeah, I think that would be good. Show what it's doing.
And so let's see, control. Okay, so we'll just change this from, well, actually I can show you the ultra wide, right? What it looks like now, versus the, so in Unity, you can actually try the different values and see what they look like, even down to like really tiny values.
Oh, yeah.
And so like, if you played it on mobile, especially, it would be kind of like very strange looking. But yeah, so I'll use that as a good example. So like one thing is to make the buttons appropriately sized. What I can do is I can come out of maximize mode and show you what's happening on the canvas in the buttons. So one setting that's really important to know about is this scale with screen size. And so that's just a setting on the canvas, or it's a component you can add to the canvas called a canvas scaler. So that's the first thing, but that won't protect you from different resolutions. So, but you can see it kind of like right now on the stream. There's a reference resolution, and then it'll take that reference resolution and scale things. So that's the first thing I recommend you enable. And then just have it match with the width of the screen as much as possible. Then
the canvas scaler. But I think that's one of the things a lot of people just miss from the start and don't realize that just adding that will fix a lot of their problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Not all of them, but a lot.
Then there's this idea of the anchors. And so this logo right here, let me make it a little bit larger. The logo, I want it to stretch and skew with the width of the screen. And so this might not be the best choice. In fact, I might change it. But what happens here is I've put the corners with the anchors. So it will just stretch based on the aspect ratio available. And you can kind of see that. The invisible triangles are next to the blue dots, right?
Right. Now, what does it look like when they're not? You know, show what it looks like normally when they're not anchored up like that?
Yeah, okay. So right now, you see we're on the ultra wide version. I'll just go back to the normal aspect. I'll go back to the title logo, and what I'll do is I'll just pop it in the center there. And even, yeah, so just popping it in the center. And then now if we go back to the ultra wide, you'll see it gets cut off at the top as soon as that happens. And so there's the line there, and it's just cutting off the top of the logo. And so before it actually found the right place to be and then moved it, but now it doesn't, right?
Can you show what the arrows look like too in that situation, like when it's in the bad spot?
The arrows, yeah, it's up above, so I'm actually hovering over it right now. There are 4 arrows, and it's just anchored to the center of the screen. So what it'll do is it just holds it in the center every time. And no matter how you have it positioned, it will always just hold it to the center.
Which can be offset by that offset.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just always be offset by that offset. It'll never get any better, and it'll just kind of like get screwed up, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people see those arrows too in the middle, and they kind of like look like a crosshair, and they don't realize that that's actually related to the thing that they're working on.
Yeah, and so you can see actually if I change this right now, for example, and then modify it again to the ultra wide, you'll see it kind of scaled it a little bit differently than what it had when it was anchored like that. And so these arrows, these things have quite a bit of impact. Also, you can make it so that it anchors to one side, and so it'll always stay to that side, for example. So like if I put it over here and I just said, let's go ultra wide, what it'll do is it'll just move it all the way to the side there. Or it'll keep it anchored to that side. And so let's see, 16 by 9. But another really interesting thing is this side menu that I have. It's got a lot going on as well. So this main menu panel is scaling in the center of the screen. But then what's happening is, so this thing is just saying like, I want to keep the menu to the left of this panel. And then I'm going to put the anchors so that it stretches vertically, but not horizontally. And I'm going to keep it to the left. So now it's always going to be out of the way of the sword that's spinning in the center. And and so that's always been pretty interesting. And so now you can kind of like change the aspect ratio of the game, whenever you wanted to. So some really kind of interesting stuff.
Nice. And then you had an asset that you like to use too, right? Like a little custom editor script that just automatically fixes up your anchors when they're messed up.
Yeah. So I don't know where this is now. I don't know where where people can download it. But
where you got it from?
Yeah, or where I got it from, really. But oh yeah, and I guess there's this comment on text, right? So you can actually in TextMesh Pro, you can use the auto size feature, and then you make the bounding box inside your button. So you have the button on the outside, the bounding box for the text. The text will automatically scale, and then as long as the anchors are on the corners, then they'll automatically scale as well. But for example, to talk about that asset that I had. So,
with that auto size, by the way, one thing that people don't notice is like it has defaults of like 18 and 72 for the min and max.
Yeah.
So it'll stop shrinking down if you don't lower that number down to something smaller. A lot of time I shrink that down to like 8 or 9 or something.
Exactly. And so that asset that you're talking about, there's a script out there. I think if you search for this right here, anchors to corners, you'll find it. But basically, you see how the anchors are in the middle now? I can automatically just move them to the corners, and it will automatically just stretch based on the aspect ratio, which ended up working really well for most pieces. And do have to develop the game as we.
That was the corners to anchors, right? That you're using the option from there.
Yeah, that was the anchors to corners is the option I used. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. I thought you were hitting the other button. Yeah, that's a really cool one. So you don't have to drag those around. And if you haven't been dragging those around, you've been ignoring them. That's probably why why your UI elements are all out of whack. But I would grab that little asset and it's little hotkeys to do it, speed things up. It's pretty cool. All right, let me see what other questions we had in here. Somebody sent you a link. Oh, Scott sent you a link in Discord. Let's see. Okay. So. Here's an interesting question.
Yeah.
So I'm dreaming about quitting my job as a senior full-time or full-stack web dev to become an indie game dev. Is this even possible to do without starving?
Without starving. Yeah, I think that's a really difficult question to answer. There's so I work full time, and I work in enterprise software IoT space, and this is kind of like definitely a part-time thing. So it's possible though. I've seen people do that. I think Jason, you're maybe more qualified to answer that than me. But I think the main thing is just practice at it, and then you can make the leap. I know there's one guy I talk to really often who saved up a bunch of money and has gone to make games full time. But he's also working to make it profitable. One thing that I think is really important is marketing early, and like learn about marketing the game, and then starting to work on the game, and then because I think one thing that I really wish I had done early on, and I think that this game would be profitable, is if I had put up my Steam page very early on, rather than waiting so long to do the Steam page and get involved in Steam in general. And so because what's happening is the wish lists accumulate over time, and then that's going to be a big impact on your profitability. And so that's a big piece of it, I think, is just like learning about all those pieces about like getting your game known and things. Especially starting as a developer, right? So I had a lot of forward momentum on building the game early on, but I think the thing that really was important, from a profitability standpoint, is understanding the marketing aspects. And that's often like a lot of developers might say, hey, I'm going to make games, and then not learn about the marketing. And then what happens is they realize that they can't be profitable because they weren't marketing their game, even though they might have a really good game. And so, but another piece of it is like the pool of gamers out there is essentially, infinite, right? Like, so there's probably people that will like the game that you make and an audience for it that could exist, but unless they have a good way of hearing about it in the first place, it's really important to understand that, I guess.
No, I think that all makes sense. I mean, it's fun, it's cool, but it's certainly like making money off of releasing your game. I don't think it's really any different from like making money off of releasing a web app, or an enterprise app. Like, it's still the same process. There's more than just, you got to create the product, but you also have to create the marketing, you have to do the sales, you have to do all the other stuff involved with making a company and releasing a game. It's not just releasing a game if you want it to be profitable, right? If you just want to do it for fun and you want to release it, then and maybe it just happens to blow up, and fine. But if you want it to like replace your full-time job, then I think I think you got to think of it just like you would thinking of any other startup. Like, you've got to figure out how you're going to make it profitable if it's going to be your thing, and like have a whole plan for that. You can't just make a game and hope.
Yeah, that was a really good question.
That was great. I mean, another thing I think you can do though is just start making your game while you're working, right? Like, it doesn't take that, as long as you can avoid getting distracted, you can avoid going down the wrong path a billion times, which is not easy to do. But if you can avoid that, you can definitely build stuff in your spare time. Most people I know that are probably about half the developers I know like do some sort of stuff in their spare time, either a game or some other project. So I think that's what I would recommend first, right? Before trying to dive into quitting or anything like that. Or the other option is just, you can also just get a job as a game developer, just like you can be a full stack web dev. You can just be a full stack Unity dev, or I wouldn't really call it full stack, but you can just be a Unity developer or Unreal developer or whatever, and do the same kind of thing, and you build up those skills and then convert that into your own game later, or your own hobby project later.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of it, is right. It's you could also, I think, jump, crossing industries, like going in to get a job as a game developer is probably a lot easier than making a profitable indie studio.
For sure. That's like getting a job as a web developer can be easier than starting your own profitable web company, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think that's a big piece to pay attention to and really understand. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question, but yeah, it depends on what your goals are, I guess. So I think there's a number of options ahead of you. Switch careers and actually just go work for a studio, or work on a game part time like I am, or save up a bunch of money and try and build something. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars saved probably to appropriately buy unique assets and things like that. I'll say that on this, building this game, I haven't spent much money because a lot of this is artwork from the asset store, and so the characters are could be reused by other people to make their own games, right? But the benefit out of it was that I spent very little money actually producing the game, and so I was able to kind of still work on it, but it's still kind of like very hobby status, I guess would be a good way to put it.
What would you estimate you spent total on this thing, like cash wise?
Less than $1,000 for sure. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah. It's basically a lot of Humble Bundle sales. Like I always look at Humble Bundle sales, Unity Asset Store sales, and then there were a couple of specific assets I wanted, like all the artwork for the characters I really liked from BitJam and things like that. But yeah, it just given that like most of the assets I have came from sales and stuff, it'd be in probably somewhere in the hundreds of dollars. And I do pay for the Unity like subscription, that sort of thing. And yeah, somebody says in the chat on Steam, never make work your hobby. And working on a game will make you hate games. I don't think that's true. But I mean, maybe full time.
Working on a game might make you hate that
one game.
There have been lots of times where I was working on a game and like by the end of it, I just never wanted to really play it again. It'll also kind of like ruin the fun and joy of the challenge of a game, especially if there's anything that's like power obtainable, because you can just give yourself whatever you want at any time. Like having unlimited, it feels a lot like hacking games, right? Like that same like little bit of excitement, but then it loses all interest because you hacked it. You get that with working on games too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for people talking about just the price of making games, like you spend $1,000 on this, but you can definitely get into making games and do them for free, or like much cheaper even to start. Right? This is just like $1,000 was totally fine with your budget, wasn't a problem at all, and was able to get you as much art as you wanted to get. And you were able to get all of this stuff for multiple levels and a ton of stuff at that $1,000. But people can definitely get in and build their own game for free to start. Like tons of the stuff you're using, I'm sure, was free.
There's a lot of free stuff in here, and in fact, most games that I've made, well, I think every game before this that I've made have been, I've made, maybe 4 or 5 different games on varying levels of complexity, and all the games before this I had spent essentially no money on, and so they were built, from the ground up, and so all of those games were, if I didn't count my time, were mildly profitable, but so that's where the complexity comes in, is just spending less than you're making in order to make it a viable thing, right? And afford your time.
Definitely. For me, it comes down to if I tried to make any art, I couldn't. It would take me thousands of dollars worth of time to make something terrible. Right? I would be working to make something that look like crap. Or I can go get a Humble Bundle for $20 and have tons and tons of beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Or jump on Fiverr like you did for your logo, which again I think really worked out well.
Nice. The logo is probably one of the more expensive things that I've purchased.
Do you remember how much that ended up costing?
That was like $35 to $40 or something like that. But yeah, like any one thing, if you look at the bundles that I've bought, usually it's like, hundreds of items of artwork are included in that, what I otherwise would have spent on the logo itself and things. So it's been a pretty interesting thing for sure.
Yeah, the bundles are great. The asset store bundles and humble bundles. Just good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if there were any other questions. Let's see. Yeah, all of the assets you bought, almost all the assets you bought are reusable for other games, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, you could reuse them on your own projects, or other people could buy most of those things too, all the ones that weren't custom. And then I don't know if there were any other questions in my chat. Oh, what do you think about?
Oh, I lost you. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. I don't know if I think I still see the stream coming in, so I think I just lost Jason. Hopefully that's a brief thing. But yeah, so sorry, Frozen Food. I know you didn't want to talk software today, but it's kind of my thing. But yeah, any other questions? Let me know. And yeah, just kind of playing through. This is level 2. Obviously download the demo, get the wish list, that sort of stuff, and yeah, I do enjoy making games as a hobby, and that's kind of what I do, and so it's been pretty good all around. Oh geez, I just got blown up. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. Try that again. Yeah, so physics-based hack and slash, it's all good. And let's see here. Yeah, fighting these guys off. All right, let me check something real fast. Alrighty, so yeah, so maybe I will transition. Hang on one second. So yeah, Jason's coming back now. There we go. All right. Jason, how's it going? Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, he's not connected on audio yet. All good, all good. Yeah, fighting off these enemies. Yeah, still no audio connection. Oh, I assume you're setting up stream stuff. Yeah. So yeah, any more questions, audience? There are different mechanics in the game. I know usually to do with the enemies, so different shields and other types of things out there. The ragdoll effects are pretty fun to play around with. Whew, that was close.
All right, good.
Hey.
Now I can hear you. I don't know why I got disconnected, but I'm on audio through my phone and video through the computer. Hopefully everything magically works again.
Nice, nice.
Yep. All right. We can get you just playing through.
Yeah. So somebody on the Steam chat was saying they wanted to see some gameplay, so I was just kind of playing through.
Nice.
Um,
Well, you keep playing through. I don't know. You want to talk about publishers while you play through? I
Publishers,
assume
yeah.
you never really considered that, right?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's something that I could explore one of these days, but I just, again, it was like very kind of like hobby status, and then I don't know, what benefit, if any, a publisher would have, probably on the marketing side for sure, I think, but yeah, also, I know that some people out there have had problems with like, getting a publisher, especially people that are kind of doing indie work and then have already built it, and then after the fact looking for a publisher. I think depending on the publisher's stake in the project and everything like that, there's some stuff that can go wrong. So because I don't know a lot about that, I've been kind of staying away from it.
No, I think I'm in the same boat. I would, unless you have like a really good reason to go with the publisher and understand what it is that you're doing and why, and like what the benefit is and what the costs are to you, like what you're actually gonna have to do to make that work out. I would not just jump into it. Like I know there are like lots of these little mini publishers out there that'll try to publish everybody's stuff, but I mean, if it's too easy to get them to publish your stuff, like if they'll just do anybody's things, then they're probably not going to do too much amazing stuff because it's taking everybody and just trying to take a cut.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think you got to find somebody like who can complement what it is that you need. If you can get a publisher that can provide money because your company or your startup needs money, then cool. If you need marketing and they're really good at marketing and that they're good at marketing, they didn't just tell you that and you haven't actually seen what they do, then that could be good too. You just want to make sure that you're getting your value out of it because it's not like free. Right? Like publisher is usually a really expensive thing. Like they're taking a giant cut of your revenue indefinitely, right? So like it's not free thing. Just because it's money that you haven't earned yet doesn't mean that it's money that you won't earn. And if they're not adding the value, it's going to really suck. And being able to swap them out later if there's a problem is not an easy thing. So to make sure that that you're good with the relationship and that you're actually getting the value out of it. But personally, like for a one-man startup, I think I would have a hard time justifying that. I just there's just not much they could provide unless it was like some publisher that's like, hey, we're gonna have you on every video game site for the next year. Who knows? Like front page of Steam for a week or something, but no. It's
for sure.
Question.
For sure.
Just watching you play through. So let's see. Any other questions?
If you wanna take a break for a bit, and then we can set a rerun on and come back if you like to, so that could work.
Yeah, that could be fine. Okay. Hop back on in a couple hours and talk a bit more about dev and this game and your stuff and whatever other things you want to chat about.
Yeah, let's do that. I'll switch over now and then I'll see.
Okay, well, before people do, don't forget to wishlist the game and hit thumbs up and subscribe and subscribe if you're watching on my YouTube channel, or go wishlist the game either way. Then we'll be back in a little bit.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching us today, and it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll see y'all soon.
See you very soon. Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Let me see. I'm still broadcasting, but I need to get the video out.